Hey, NIO FAM, happy Friday to you. It is 2:30 Central Time on Friday, August 29th, 2025, as I record this. And I actually want to work backwards. I want to go from number 3 to 1 with the 3 short-term stock price indicators for NIO stock. The third is sentiment. Let's start there. Fun fact, on the channel, I've had over 22,000 views just in the last week. That's a significant uptick compared to what I've seen in recent months. So I take that as an indicator that sentiment is starting to shift. The FTD data is on screen and it's represented by the white lines. And I only have the recent history dating back to, in fact, this is the time frame I want to highlight here, is October of 2024, because from that time until now, we are nearing the high for NIO stock. This was a close at $7.21 on this day back in October. And right after that, we had a big FTD spike represented by these white lines here, which I think contributed and helped bring the stock price down. And this level is the $5.19 level, which is one I was watching. Even recently, we had gotten to that point. This does not have all of the latest data. In fact, the FTD data, the latest we have is only through the end of July. And we don't even have the price action in the near term, which is the uptrend. And now let's look and talk about that and how the relevance of these numbers, like the $5.19 level up to the $7.21 level, are relevant, at least in my mind. This is the recent uptrend starting from about July 10th. And what we've seen is with more trade days and volume of 100 million shares or more on more days in these last couple months, we've seen NIO stock start to move up. It made the big move up right through the $5.19 level, which previously had been sort of the high range for NIO, but it came off these 4 days of big volume. So the day before, NIO closed at $5.07, but it just flew right through the $5.19 level with these 4 bigger days of trade volume. Now, the last 3, including today, which as of my recording, we're not even to 50 million shares traded for NIO stock during the day. So it's a low volume trade day and the third in a row. This is positive in my mind because we're still well above, as I'm recording this, we're at $6.34, way, like well above that $5.19 level, which again, if we look back even into last year, you know, that $5.19 level was kind of the top for NIO stock. But because we don't have the latest FTD data and won't get it until probably after earnings on Tuesday, September 2nd, I wanted to go ahead and talk again about this price action and also give a little teaser. If we look at today's trade volume and on the right-hand side, the price action, this 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, and then the 8 o'clock Eastern time, those 5-minute incremental windows I've been tracking the last few weeks. And this was, again, a day where we saw both green in both of those windows, those 5-minute incremental windows. So because we don't have the FTD data and don't know, obviously what that's going to look like yet, we do have this bigger volume indicator for NIO stock, which obviously helped the move that is still sort of playing out, I think. Now, here's the teaser. Alibaba had their earnings this morning, and I've got the same time frame on the left side for Alibaba, going back to about that July 10th time frame. And look at this volume that came in today. Post earnings, 68 million shares traded. The average 10-day to 30-day was only 10 to 12 million shares traded for BABA. So it started popping today. Will we see something like that with NIO? Or will we get a dump, or maybe even a dump and then a pump same day on Tuesday? I don't know, but I wanted to bring this up and highlight the fact that on this big trade volume, BABA made a big move. And so I think it makes things even more interesting and compelling heading into the weekend, the long weekend. And by the way, here in the US, it's a long weekend because the US stock market will not be open on Monday. However, NIO trades in Singapore and in Hong Kong, and those markets will be open. So will we see something crazy going on over there, and will it carry over into the earnings, which will be pre-market here on Tuesday, September 2nd? I don't know. But these are just some of the things that I'm thinking about, wanted to share and highlight a video, and again, kind of remind people as to why those levels that I've been talking about are the levels I've been talking about. Even back here, this $5.19 sort of high point was followed with this deluge of FTDs, which also correlated with the low for NIO stock, almost like these things actually affect one another. I don't know, call me crazy. I've been called worse. But over the weekend, I do plan on digging into data and looking at some of the recent earnings, and kind of what the price action was and also what the volume was, because it seems to me that I remember some times where the stock has dropped. I also remember at least one time, and I think probably more than one, where it dropped and then pumped same day. But I want to actually have the research available and the data so that we can actually dig into it. And so I'll try to do that over the weekend, maybe even on Saturday. But I did want to get this video up, and hopefully I can get it out before the market closes. Also, I did have somebody ask me, so I want to offer this. My view is long-term, and you can check it out on the YouTube channel and see sort of the 3 indicators. Matter of fact, I'll put them on screen right now. These are the 3 major growth phases as I identified for NIO stock. Back in 2020, in the summers when I first heard about NIO, and that's when I started my research into the company. And I frankly, my view was I wanted to get to a point where I would have 2,000 shares. My hope was that, or my thought was long-term, if the stock could go to $500 and I had 2,000 shares, that's $1 million worth of NIO stock. So that was sort of my take back then. But I wanted to have some indicators to track so that I could say, okay, it's been enough time as an IDE, an innovative driven enterprise. This company needs more time to build out, do the proper investment to position itself to be a globally dominant company. And so it's hard to just say, oh, I'll give it 5 years or I'll give it, this many years. So what I did is I came up with the 3 major growth phases for NIO that I thought were sort of relevant or important to me to track. And that would basically represent the short-term, long-term, short side of the long-term time frame. Hope I said that right. So here's what I mean. We are in the first major growth phase right now, market awareness. The brands have to be known. And of course, back when I was doing this initially, there were no sub brands. And so I thought it was just going to be NIO, but they've come out with Onvo, they've come out with Firefly. So the market, even within China, is still learning about this company. That market awareness, the brand awareness has to grow. It has to improve so that they can take more of the market segment share, especially in that upper echelon where BMW, Mercedes, and Audi continue to dominate sales. So that is, I think, the first and kind of major point. I think we're actually at a tipping point, a pivot point right now with Onvo and the L90, and then also NIO with the ES8 refresh. I think these 2 in particular are really helping bring more eyes to all of the brands. So I think we're kind of at that point where this is going to start really shifting. And hopefully it'll end up being like a snowball effect where things will just continue to improve and momentum will build from here on out. That's the first major growth phase, market awareness, as I see it. The second is profitability. And I think these 2 things are probably going to come in around the same time and kind of align with one another. Profitability, if NIO can have a break-even Q4, frankly, I think that's more important than them even coming close to their full year goal for deliveries, which, by the way, teaser, I need to also try and do a video on that. So I'll try and get that out over the weekend as well. But profitability really will crush the short thesis. And if I zoom out on the full history of NIO stock with the FTDs, the time frame when NIO stock made its big run, and I frankly was afraid I was going to get priced out of the market and wouldn't be able to get to my 2,000 share goal, was in here. This is also when I was doing my initial research into things and just becoming more familiar with the company and the brand. So what we had during this time frame, a lot of big volume days, trade volume of 100 million shares, or even a lot more on a lot of these days. With that, at the same time, we saw the well, we didn't see, we had to look back to see the delayed lag data, which is the FTDs, drop off. Those drop off, the stock price took off, big volume, and that obviously sentiment. And here's as far as I'm concerned, if you want to look at the institutional, the big money, the smart money, whatever you want to call them, investors, all of the analysts were trailing the NIO stock price up. When we see that again, I'll consider us to be closer to a full-on sentiment shift. But I think we've got a ways to go. So with that, that's sort of the profitability. I think the other important point, and maybe I'll do a video on this in the near term as well, Tesla versus NIO and the history of the stock price action with the FTDs. because NIO ran harder and went higher at an earlier stage compared to Tesla. And I don't know if that means it can make any kind of Tesla-like moves, because Tesla made crazy moves when it really went, but it didn't really take off to the upside with the stock price until after full year profitability. And if NIO can do that in 2026, that surely makes everything so much more compelling and exciting. And I think all of those things could align over the next couple of years. Battery as a service is the third sort of growth phase that once, and my thought, again, this was before they even had other brands like Onvo and Firefly. I was thinking, I wanted to see what battery as a service looked like after there were 1 million NIO vehicles on the road. So that's just the NIO brand in my mind. So I'm basically still probably giving this at least 2 years to be even on the short side of my long-term time frame. That's me. That's my view. That's my take. And that's kind of my, I wanted to offer it since somebody recently asked, and I do know that there are new subscribers to the channel. So just a little bit more in depth. And since I did do a longer than 8-minute video, I will create chapters, timestamps, and put them down in the description to make it easier for you to view and jump around as you wish. But in any event, I will have more content coming out over the weekend. Very, very excited to see what is going to happen heading into Tuesday. And it's just going to be fun to continue studying and researching and learning. I really enjoy that. So thanks, NIO fam. Oh, by the way, NIO Global Community, you all are the main reason I continue to do content on the channel. It's my favorite part of being involved in this is sharing with the global community. Over 42 different countries have been on my channel and watched my content in the last 28 days. That's awesome. I love that. So, Shishi, thank you. Have a great day or night whenever you see this. I'll see y'all again very soon.